Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I am your host, Randi-lee. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking to Joe Templin. If you have not already, hit that like and subscribe button. Do it now. Like, subscribe, click, follow if you're on the podcast, whatever button says that you will never miss an episode, click that button. Okay. And thank you, Joe, for joining us. I've got Joe Templin here with us. And where are you joining us from?
I am in upstate New York. So New York City, Montreal, halfway in between. We have trees.
Oh, so I'm kind of close. I'm close to the Buffalo border. So
I'm Clifton Park today.
There we go. I have not crossed the border in quite some time since COVID, but
Yeah, I got turned away at the border the day after it supposedly opened.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, yeah. We're not going to think about COVID, though. No. We're going to think about who is Joe. Tell us, who are you?
So I am a human Swiss Army knife, as my friends like calling me now, I'm a human Kaizen expert because I've got an incredibly eclectic background. And I say eclectic as opposed to being a Renaissance man because I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. I have zero artistic ability, and I'm totally cool with that. So I say polymath because I can actually do math. And what I do is I help people. I help organizations and individuals bring out their excellence. And so that takes many forms where it's consulting, coaching, writing, speaking, but it's all aligned with that grand purpose of helping individuals and ultimately organizations of all forms become more excellent.
Okay, so that's what you do, but who are you?
So I'm an unrepentant geek. I'm a diehard Yankees fan. I love comic books. You can see I got Thor up there. Thor is my spirit animal, unless, Stitch is. So they go back and forth depending on the day. I am a special needs father and a martial artist and an ultra marathon.
Oh, what martial arts do you do?
So I've got 35 plus years in traditional Taekwondo. So we still punch each other in the head. Yeah. I've also trained in traditional American boxing and judo and Krav Maga and a bunch of other things to help supplement it.
That is awesome. So I don't know if you've read anything about what I've done, but I have done Muay Thai for the past 10 years, I think, and kickboxing for low kick and full contact. So that's awesome.
And you know what? It is actually one of the most powerful things that anybody can do is martial arts. I think they need to teach martial arts to kids in grade school because of the mental health aspects and the self-control components that they need more and more as they get older and they don't necessarily have the proper outlets. And I actually burned a YouTube video this morning on one of these ideas about anger as an energy and how you can sublimate your anger and use it to good outcome. And basically I used it as fuel almost 25 plus 30 years ago to help transform myself into a world champion martial artist. And then over time, the anger, went from a fire to just a coals to going on out. But the side effect of that, because I had harnessed it for good, was a much different curve for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. Like when I go on other people's shows for interviews, they're always asking about the coping strategy of kickboxing or how it makes, the anger part of it. And it's like, sometimes you just want to hit somebody, but you're not allowed unless they're agreeing to it.
Exactly. And one of the other things is that when somebody else is hitting you, as Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So being able to fight and reach into the depths of your being and pull out resolve and reserves. I mean, I fought Mike Tyson's sparring partner to a standstill when I was a brown belt, when I was getting ready for my black belt. I was 150 pounds. This guy was 6'3", 220, maybe 230. He knocked me out of my feet, but he couldn't knock me out of the fight. And I went 3 full 3-minute rounds with this guy. this monster.
Wow. That's
And so
crazy.
when you go through things like that, you pull out things from your insides that you didn't know that you had.
Yeah.
And you then can achieve greater things overall. The reason why I was able to run ultra marathons was because of my background in martial arts. And I've got a saying that I wear my black belt on my soul.
Oh, I like that.
Because you can take away the designations from somebody. You can like lose a license. You can go through a divorce. You can lose your significant other, change jobs, whatever. But the lessons and that you've learned, the skill sets that you've developed, all that, they remain inside you. And so even if I'm not wearing my black belt, right now I'm in a suit and tie, I'm still that person. I still have those capabilities, whether it is if I need to do something physically or if I have to emotionally face something incredibly difficult. It doesn't matter. That power is still within me because it was developed previously.
Yeah, that's such a good point. We've said something when I've trained before, and it's like you hit the wall, but you have to go past the wall. That's not the real wall. When you're exercising or you're doing something right and you feel like I can't do anymore, that's your wall.
Yeah,
but really,
that's mile 19 in a marathon is when you bonk and you run out of energy.
Yeah,
and you have to go through it.
Exactly. But we say that's not the real wall. Like you said, you can go through it, you can push through it. But most people, they hit that wall and it's like, okay, I'm done. I can't go anymore. But you usually can. You usually have that little bit more that you can just push through and keep going. And yeah, it's so true. Actually, one of the first fights that I ever saw at our national championships, and I'll never forget it. So this one guy comes out, and this is it was full contact, or no, it was K1 style, in the like 200 plus pound division for the men.
Big guys.
Yeah, you got to picture these big guys. And the first guy comes out and he is jacked. So he's very tall, probably 6 feet. They were both around 6 feet, but just so jacked, ripped, like abs and the guns for arms and stuff, right? And the other guy comes out. Big guy. You can tell that he worked out, but not ripped, right? Like a little bit of a hot belly, not much, but a little bit there, whatever. So most people are placing their bets on the guy that looks jacked. But during the fight, it was that guy actually kept falling down, and he wasn't falling down because he was being hit and knocked out. He was falling down because he was tired. You could tell that he was going and he was just like, oh, I need a break, and he would just fall down. And so the other guy ended up winning because clearly he had the stamina to keep going. There, that other guy, he hit his wall and he's like, no, I'm done, and kept falling down. The other guy, he hit his wall, but he just kept going because that's what you have to do, right? Just in a fight and in life, really.
Jack Dempsey said decades ago, a champion is someone who gets up when they can't.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter if it's in the ring or if you're dealing with your kids or your career or whatever.
Yeah.
You get back up and you keep going even when you can't. That's why we do the difficult things when we don't have to build those reserves so that we can tap into them when we need to.
Yeah. And from watching that fight, and I'm going to say this probably 9 years ago that I watched this fight, I came up with a saying. Me and my training partners, we were all watching it, right? We started saying, I don't tap out to tired. Because that's all he was doing. He kept falling down and wanting to tap out because he was tired. Not because it was that he was losing, not because the other guy was pummeling him, because he was tired. And so he came up.
You know what that means? That means he didn't do the work up front.
Yeah.
That means he did not push himself when he didn't have to, or he didn't have people around him to push him to that higher level. And that's why he failed, is because he ultimately had been lazy leading up to the event.
Exactly. And that can be, we can extrapolate that to life.
Everything.
Exactly. When we are too lazy to do the work, when we don't want to go to therapy, when we don't want to get up in the morning because we're depressed. And I can say this because I've been there. We just sit in that funk and this depressed state and that awfulness. We have to push past even when we don't want to. And trust me, there's been lots of days I didn't want to.
Yeah. And motivation comes from the root word movement. So start going and your body will react. So I have friends who have some very bad anxiety and depression, and it's literally you drag them out of bed and get them moving. Great
Yeah.
example was my kid this weekend. He had signed up to do his first 5K. He's 11.
Wow.
He's special needs and has all these things, and he was not having it. It was a bad morning, and so I, basically put him back. He was in bed. I basically retucked him in and woke him up again, basically trying to reset him. And I'm like, dude, you committed. You gave your word, and
Yeah.
you've got a friend who's going to be at that run who wants to see you.
That's
And
awesome.
so he grumpily got in the car and everything. We went on down, and
Yeah.
then he had a great race. He did it in like 10 minutes faster than what I was expecting. I was absolutely amazed and impressed by him. But it's because once you start going, it's that activation energy from chemistry.
Mhm.
So you got to get over that hump, and it might take an external kick in the pants, like what I did, or a charge, or a friend calling you, or what
Yeah.
have you. But getting up to the top hill, then you go on down to the other side and you release all the energy because it's easy.
Exactly. And that segues perfectly into what we're really going to talk about here, being parent of a special needs kid. Because we have that in common. So tell us, so you said he's 11.
Yep.
Right?
Well, I actually have two special needs ones.
Oh, okay.
My
So one is
oldest
11.
is Asperger's and bipolar. He's 17 now. And my middle one's supposedly the neuronormal one, but he's got his own issues.
Always.
And then the 11-year-old is ADHD and autistic.
Okay. So let's start with your first son. And so let's go way back 17 years ago. Well, not 17 years ago, because it depends when he was diagnosed, but in and around, 10 to 17 years ago. When he was diagnosed, how did that make you feel as a parent?
It was like, I'm allowed to swear, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, holy shit. What the hell? Because like the bipolar and a lot of those mental issues actually come from his mother and his mother's side of the family. So it's like, okay, all right, I can figure out how to deal with this. And then with the Asperger's, it's like, all right. And because it was just Asperger's, as opposed to being much further along on the spectrum, having gone to an engineering school, I mean, Rensselaer Polytechnic. I mean, our mascot is the engineers. And being a physicist, I'm like, all right, so he's going to be an engineer. Not the worst thing in the world, which that was okay. So actually, the Asperger's diagnosis was very easy to handle simply because I have so much exposure with high functioning individuals within that space because of my background. So that one was not bad at all. It was the bipolar and other issues that manifested themselves in explosive behavior and disrespect and disruption and things like that, which, as the oldest, the youngest model off.
Yes. How old was he when he received his diagnosis for Asperger's? Or just because, so I don't know how it is where you are, but here, Asperger's all falls under the umbrella of autism. They don't differentiate between the two anymore. They used to, but they don't differentiate between the two anymore. But it is, like you said, it's not quite as severe as some people.
He never got an IEP, which is
the individual education plan
or anything like that. So the Asperger's was like an after diagnosis. And so there is no special consideration for him around that.
Oh, okay. So, and how old was he?
13, I think.
Oh, wow. So quite a late diagnosis.
Yeah, quite a late diagnosis. And by then he had already had a lot of the other things diagnosed and having issues around that, medication, treatment, counseling. So it was after my youngest had been diagnosed as autistic, and we had gone through that for a couple of years, and I was getting involved with the autism side. I'm like, wait a moment. And, did some research and then had somebody check them out, and they're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So how old was your youngest when he was diagnosed?
Let's see, he had just finished kindergarten, so he was rolling into first grade. So he was right around 6 years old. And
Okay.
he so that summer between uh, kindergarten and first grade, he got thrown out of 3 different camps slash daycares in a month-long period, including on my birthday, Canada Day. And so I had to go and pick him up because he was throwing rocks and spitting it.
Oh my gosh. So I'm not laughing because it's funny that he got kicked out. I'm laughing because
It's
we've
funny
been there.
now.
We've been
It's
there.
funny now.
Yeah. So I remember I had put my son into summer camp, and I had done research on which one to put him in because of the autism. And the one that I signed him up for through the city that we live in, on their little flyer, says that they are partnered with community living. And community living is the place that gives support to people with disabilities. So in my mind, I signed him up for a camp that was partnered with this place that would know how to deal with him. And on the registration, I put down his diagnoses, I put down triggers and what meltdowns look like, all that stuff. I come to find out later, after I had been called to pick him up and told that he was
He's
kicked
not
out.
welcome back.
Yeah, he's not welcome back unless I got his own support worker. He could come back if I got a support worker for him for the summer. Because I paid for the whole summer. Because that would be where he was. So I could go to work. And I was like, well, why isn't he with a community support worker? Like you say on your
you advertise it.
You had to already be a client of community living in order for that to matter. So they're advertising it as something that it was not. So it was very unfortunate. So my advice to any other parents kind of trying to look for summer camp, I mean, we're in that time of year, is ask a lot more questions, because just because it looks like they're advertising in a way that your kid would be helped, it doesn't always mean it is.
So. Well, actually, on a side thing on that, I'm a Cub Scout leader, and about a quarter of my pack is special needs, autistic in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And my youngest's old leader before I took over to help out was a special needs teacher. And so I picked up a lot of good things from her and from other people within the autistic community and studying and all that. And so we have so many kids with issues joining Scouts that we're doing a lot of things on the council level to try and help out. But I actually sit down with each one of my parents that if they have a special needs kid, I talk with them one-on-one, and I talk with them about resources, and we talk about strategies that we can use. And I ask, what are the triggers and all that. And so like one of them, just like he's barely verbal, but Scouts is the number one thing in his life. That's and awesome. So like he loves showing on up and everything. And so the improvement that a lot of these kids have shown, because they're in an environment that is accepting of it, and the parents are getting continuous new little bits of information. The parents are growing in terms of their support network around this and their skill set. And I think that's one of the critical things. So like I had a mentor after my youngest was diagnosed. This is a good buddy who did his PhD in physics with me, or actually our undergrads, and then he went on and got his PhD. He's founded a major company, actually. And his son is a couple years older and a few steps further down the spectrum than my son. So his kid is barely verbal and has a little bit more anger issues and stuff like that. And so my buddy Jason was a great mentor through all this. And so that's one of the things is find your tribe as the special needs parent. Get those other people for that support staff, because not every day is good. And sometimes we need to be able to bitch and moan to somebody who understands.
So a couple really good points that you made there was, first off, how you were talking about how as the Cub Scout leader, you're accepting of them all. And that is so important, because we have put our son into things that clearly we're not accepting, then we had to pull him and find something else, because first off, that's not okay. And second off, I don't even want to be close to that kind of environment. Like that's bad rap there. But when you can accept these kids, and teenagers, adults, anybody really, but we're talking about kids specifically right now. So when you can accept them for who they are, not what you want them to be or what you hope they will be, who they are in that moment, it makes a world of difference. So I've been coaching kickboxing for quite a few years now. And something that I've done over the years is coach kids with autism. I would either do private lessons with them or try to get them to participate in classes with some of the other kids. And if another kid or another parent said something offhanded or a look or something, it would be addressed right then and there, not in a mean way, but in an educational way. And I think that's another really important thing that we do is educate
and it's
others.
Addressed immediately so that there's no doubt about the expectation around it. Exactly. So my youngest did Taekwondo for 4 years, and I put him in with this other instructor from a different school. I had observed how he taught classes, and he really does a good job, Master Torres. And he found out later that I was high ranking also. And so we developed a really good respect and friendship over time. In fact, he wants me to come train some of his students. But Torres is incredibly good with working with these kids. And my son, because of the ADHD, has these additional issues. And so Torres actually said something which ended up making it into my book, Focus and Finish. And this is one of the greatest techniques that a big person can apply in terms of their stuff. Because my little guy was like 7, 8 years old at this point. If a 7 or 8 year old with autism and ADHD can follow this idea and concept to be able to finish the set of techniques or the little bit of practice for the next 5 minutes or whatever, we big people should be able to tap into that too.
Exactly. And I like how you say like even just 5 minutes, because that's how we've managed to do schoolwork with my son. So he hasn't been to school since February. And even then it was pretty rocky going there and didn't usually make it through the whole day. But our school system, and don't even get me started, but just a little bit about it. He has been pushed to several different schools over his lifetime where it's like, basically it was the feeling of, we don't want to deal with you. Go to this other class, go to this other class, and different schools, and never having a chance to feel like a part of the class, because after the first 2 times, he just felt like if I do any one little thing wrong, they're just going to kick me out again. So how can somebody...
My son was in 4 different school buildings in 15 months.
Yeah, exactly. Where it was same story, right? And so it's, how can you send the kid there hoping that their behavior will change when now they feel like you don't want them? It doesn't make sense.
And they're isolated off in the 812 classroom. And, slowly getting them into the mainstream was the entire idea over the first 3 years, because my son's wicked smart.
Smarts is never, I always say this, smarts is never the issue. It's the behavior and the social skills. It's being able
to interact with others.
Yep.
And so that requires training, not just for the student, a lot of practice and, guidance and help. And COVID completely disrupted that in a lot of ways, because they lost the support structures, they lost the interactions with others, the sensory issues,
and for us, it was the opposite. So COVID was a blessing for us because it forced the school to let him do his work at home. So doing his work at home has always been better, because taking away the anxiety of the social interactions, especially after that systemic issues of the school pushing him to different classes and the teachers not giving him a chance, and not all of them. He did have some fantastic teachers over the years, but not all of them. And a significant amount of bullying in the early years, from basically kindergarten to grade 2. Those are very significant years. So COVID forcing the school to send the work home made my son realize he is very, very capable of doing the work, if given the chance. And when he would go to school, they wouldn't give him the work that he was capable of because they were worried about meltdowns and they didn't want to fight with him. So at home, we'll do 10, 15 minutes, take a break, then go back, do another 10, 15 minutes, take a break. And he is usually, I mean, he's pulling A's in most of his assignments.
And using that Pomodoro method with the kids is not bad at all, because that 10 minutes at pop will grow to be 20 to 25 down the road.
Yeah, and it has.
As a writer, when I was writing the book or whatever, I set a timer for 25 minutes because that's all I can take of the really intense mental action and eliminating everything else. Then I have to get up, walk around, take a quick drink of coffee, look at something different, re-stimulate my body. Then I can sit down and write for another 25 minutes. So I'll do 25 and 5, 25 and 5. But it's that understanding of what your work cycles are that will allow anybody, whether it's a special needs kid or a writer or a salesperson, to maximize their capabilities because they understand themselves.
Exactly. We're not, our school system and really society in general is not set up to help people do that, right? It's set up to go, okay, you're going to work for 4 hours, then you get a break. It's like, oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Our entire, educational system was developed 100 plus years ago to produce people to go work on assembly lines or to, work in an office. And so if you go back previous to that, in terms of education, were much more accepting. And so you had all these people who would be classified as special needs now, who were these exceptional innovators and scientists. Tesla, Edison, all these individuals would be classified under today's schedules as this and probably not be successful at all.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important as people, but especially us as parents, is that we need to accept their kids for who they are, make sure that we're surrounding our kids and ourselves with the people who are going to support us and support our kid, and listen to them.
That's the lesson for management, by the way, from the guy in the tie. That is how you get most success out of your office. Is that you empower the individuals. This is the job that needs to be done, but that's your job. I'm not going to lean over your shoulder. I'm not going to micromanage you. I'm not going to, be clocking every time. You do your stuff. You come to me for assistance. Tell me what you need to make it happen. We're a team. We're all individuals, and you build up from that. And that is actually how you build a successful organization. By utilizing those ideas. So I've learned so much about management from having special needs kids that I never learned when I was working on my MBA, that I never learned when I was running an office, because it's just a different mindset and is much more understanding and empathetic, which ultimately can lead to much greater upside results.
Definitely. So we have to be open to what they're capable of, and what they're capable of will, I'm going to say, blow you away if given the chance.
Yep. As my kid says, he's a mutant and autism is his superpower.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So I know that we're starting to run out of time, and I want to touch on what you've written. So, because you mentioned it, you brought it up, and tell everybody what the heck it is.
So Everyday Excellence, which is the Amazon Kindle #1 new release in professional development, is a multivitamin for life. Because we all have these different aspects, these different dimensions that we have to live in. Our occupation, our relationships, our physical health, our mental health, our spiritual health, our nutrition, our communication capabilities. And these are all different components of our life. And unfortunately, when we start as kids, we all have a growth mindset. I mean, babies learn to crawl, and then they learn to walk, and then they're, building stuff and climbing up and getting the cookie jar.
Not everybody understands what that terminology is. So please explain to them what the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset is.
Okay. So a growth mindset is you're going to continuously learn. You're going to continue to be a sponge. So little kids learn. That's what they do. They experiment. They go check stuff out. They are curious. And a fixed mindset is the opposite of that, where you have basically crystallized, where you are no longer accepting new ideas, new challenges, new stimulation. And according to Carol Dweck, roughly 60% of our adult population has a fixed mindset. So what happens from the time when we're crawling around, putting everything in our mouth, to when we're 25 years old and we are climbing the corporate ladder or building our families or what have you? What happens is we lose that wonder of a child that Einstein talked about in a lot of ways. And so that's one of the components that we can use to make sure that we're truly living is, doing things that scare us, expose us to new ideas, trying new foods, listening to new music, all these different things that can stimulate us and give us new thoughts so that we can continue to be green and growing as opposed to ripe and then ultimately rotting. And so the book is designed to sort of be the Oracle of Delphi in a lot of ways, in that an individual will take from each page what it is that they are looking for or need. And over time, that will change. As the Stoics say, no person can step in the same river twice because the river's different and the person's different. So every day, the structure of the book is that there's a quote from somebody, whether it's Walt Disney, Mahatma Gandhi, Oprah Winfrey, Sappho, across an entire broad array. Then there's analysis and discussion that can hit on lots of these different areas. But the big thing is when we're going back and talking about motivation, getting out of bed and starting to move, that if we just read something that's like, all right, that's nice, and there's no translation into the real world, to bring things to fruition, you actually have to take action. So every day there's an actual action item where the reader has to do something. And this could be like doing a SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, threats. This could be sitting down and writing a letter to the person that you're upset about and writing out all the reasons why you're upset and then crumpling up and throwing in the garbage or burning. So it's off your chest. One of my favorite action items actually though is smile at 5 people today.
Oh, I like that one because, all right, for people who don't understand why that is such an awesome one, think about, and at least for me, and hopefully this has happened for other people, I used to always, I walk my dogs every morning, and I used to always go for walks on my lunch break when I worked at the last place that I worked at. And when you are just starting your day, like going a walk in the morning, I'm like, ugh, I'm waking up. Or in the middle of the day after you've sat in an office with no window and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. When you're going for a walk and somebody's just like, hello, and they're smiling and you have no idea who this person is, but they're happy. It's contagious.
It is contagious. Hi. And it's contagious because when you smile, it helps, and somebody sees it, it activates the mirror neurons in the neocortex, the front of the brain. And so I smile at you, you want to smile back. Okay. When I smile, my cortisol levels drop. So my stress levels decrease and there's less damage being done to my body. My happiness hormones of various types, whether it's serotonin or oxytocin, actually increase. Okay, so I'm happier. I am now actually more productive and intelligent for the next 15 to 20 minutes. So when I smile at you, I am giving you the gift of happiness. I am making your life better by doing that. And so there can be a ripple effect from that. So that's literally a gift that costs me nothing and could mean the entire world to you.
Yeah.
Now, going back to what you just said about taking that walk, when you get exercise, Sir Richard Branson said that's the greatest productivity tool on the planet. 15 minutes of exercise, actually, if you looked at an EEG, an electroencephalogram of somebody's brain, it lights up the entire brain, both right and left hemispheres. So if you're getting 15, 20 minutes of walking around, seeing trees and stuff like that because of the changing visual field, the physical activity, the different stimulation from the breeze and the sun and the smells and things like this, it is literally reigniting you as a human being.
So you hear that, everybody? Go outside, get some fresh air, walk.
Go for a walk every couple hours. Get up and walk around your office. Walk outside. It's one of the single best things that you can do. And you might say, well, I'm so busy. No, you take the 5 minutes to do that. You're going to be more productive over the next
Way more
20 minutes
productive.
to make it up. And then you're actually going to be ahead of the game. And you do this on a regular basis and it compounds. And that's the reason why we have this nice little nonlinear diagram on here of the compound interest over time from working on just the little things. Because as you know, Saitiyam, the founder of Stoicism, said, well-being is no small thing, but it's made up of small steps. And so it's these little things, trying to eat slightly healthier, trying to make better micro decisions, trying to, use music as motivation is one of the big things I talk about. Smile, get other people to smile at you, express gratitude, take a moment to learn something new, appreciate a rose or a sunrise or anything like that. Pet the dog, say hey to the neighborhood cat. These little things might seem stupid, but they all have great psychological and physiological effect on the body. And when you do little things spread throughout the day over and over again, at the end of the day, you're going to have a positive as opposed to a negative if you were to rank that day. And you start adding them up and you get 4 or 5 positive days in a week. What does that do for your life curve overall?
More and more happy.
Exactly.
I love
more
it.
and more productive, more and more interactive with other individuals. And so you become a net contributor to whether it's your household, your society, your neighborhood, your company, what have you. And in the end, you appreciate and like yourself more, which then further reinforces it.
Exactly. So where do people pick up this book?
So it's available online at Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and all those places. Or you can go and get it from my website, which is everyday-excellence.com, everyday-excellence.com. I recommend people actually go there because the website is actually an environment to help people become more excellent in lots of different ways. 6 days a week, I post a microblog, so it's just a real quick hit. It's like almost like a shot of espresso for your soul with some insight. There's links to the YouTube channel. Every single day I put something up there that's interesting or entertaining, hopefully in some way, shape, or form. All the podcasts live there, so people will be able to find this one and all the others. And it's just a resource to help people be better on a regular basis.
I love that. Where do people follow you? So you, obviously the website, but then you mentioned you have a YouTube.
Yep. So YouTube is Everyday Excellence with Joe. My Twitter and the Facebook group are both EDE with Joe, EDE for Everyday Excellence. Joe, that's me. And, so there's lots of different ways to be able to find the little hits of excitement and improvement that I'm trying to promote out there in the world.
I love all that. And we're going to have those links down in the description below. So everybody, that's right, everybody can check them out. You would be surprised. You're only the second person to point down with me. It's very sad, right? Like that's where they are. Go to them.
You need more participatory people.
Right. So yes, be sure to check them out and check out Joe's book. It sounds like an excellent book. Must be because it's excellence in the title. And thank you so very much for being on the show today.
Randy, thank you. Be excellent and grow today.
Today's episode is sponsored by J&L Flooring and Decor Center in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. We just got the floors in our house completely redone by J&L Flooring, and they look amazing. The floors that we used to have were they were just really ugly, and these ones are absolutely beautiful. They're exactly what I wanted in the price range that I needed. The best part is that they're super durable. I have 7 animals, right? 3 dogs and 4 cats. The floors need to be durable, and these ones are perfect. They're super easy to clean because one of those animals is still a puppy and he has accidents. Nothing's leaking through to my basement. It was happening with my old floors. You'd come downstairs and there'd be this little drip and a little puddle. Not a good thing. So not to mention that the staff there are so friendly, very helpful. They can explain all of their different floors, the laminate, the tile, the hardwood, everything, carpets. They've got it all there, and the staff know what they're talking about. They also make these really beautiful epoxy tables there. My husband wants one so bad. They are gorgeous. If you need new flooring, then you need to go and talk to J&L Flooring. Tell them you saw this on the Write or Die show and see what they've got in stock. You want to check out jandlflooring.com or just go visit them at 4424 Montrose Road, Niagara Falls, Ontario. You're not going to be disappointed. That was awesome. I'm so glad that Joe was able to come on the show and share. And I look forward to seeing what else he has coming up in the future. I do have my copy of his book to read. Probably by the time this episode airs, there will be a blog post up. So go hit up rbwriting.ca, check out the blog post about his book. And I'm sure it's wonderful, but I can't say anything yet because it's still on my to-do list of reading. You can also support the show by going to our Patreon and subscribing and getting some behind the scenes footage, as well as we have a merch store. 10% of the proceeds goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly.